What is going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of The Rose Show. As always, I am your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today we have got another episode of the Unmasked series in store for y'all. And it is features somebody I got a lot of respect for, and somebody whose story is not really that well known, which is another reason why I'm excited to have him on today. It is Joe Black of Alla Xul Elu. Like I said, he doesn't do a lot of these interviews, especially not ones like we do here on the Unmasked series, where we really take a deep dive into some people behind, no pun intended, but kind of intended, the mask. And we take the gimmick off, we strip it, and we talk about real world stuff. And I really think a lot of people are going to enjoy this. But at the same time, we do touch on some stuff you're not expecting. I wasn't expecting us to touch on this, and I hope everybody that listens to it kind of listens to it with an open mind, because we give our opinions on certain things. And, I really think if you really pay attention to what we're talking about, it's not going to be as jarring at first as when we get into some of it. But I'm not going to spoil it for you, so I'll leave it at that. Just go into some of the stuff with an open mind, and we're just talking. We're just telling our opinions. You believe whatever you want to believe, but this is what we believe. So, I just wanted to preface with that, but I really think it was a great conversation. Thank you to Mr. Black for being on. Like I said, he even told me he doesn't do this for just anybody, but he did it for me because we're boys, and I greatly appreciate it. And I know a lot of people, when this was announced, were like, you picked the quietest one out of all three, and they're absolutely correct. I did. But at the same time, you know your boy at this point. If you've been watching at any point throughout this series, I'm going to get it out of you. It doesn't matter who it is. If you're on this show, I'm going to get the information out of you. So, and I did that here with Mr. Black, and I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy this. So, looking forward to seeing what everybody thinks after this releases. And just real quick, hope everybody had a great 4th of July weekend. I called my own shot last week when I was recording this intro, and went to the Reds game both Friday and Sunday, today being Sunday, and the Reds lost all 3 days. So insert sad Price is Right noise here that I can't insert myself, or else I'll get copyright violated, and I don't want to do that. But anyway, hope everybody had a great weekend and was safe. There was a lot of accidents in our area, so listen, I know this is kind of a PSA point of this. Don't fucking drink and drive, please. Please. We just had somebody in the NFL get hit by a drunk driver. There was like 8 crashes in my area alone by drunk drivers. If you're in a big city, get a fucking Uber. If you're, in the country roads or whatever, just don't risk it. Because we're in a day and age where our phones are right next to us at all times. You can pay a little bit extra and get that shit delivered to you. Come on, man. Be smarter at that shit. And I'm not trying to lecture anybody. Do what you want to do, but just be smart. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so enough of my babbling. Let's go ahead and get into the Unmasked series with Joe Black here on episode 28, right after a word from my sponsors. Let's do it. All right, everybody, it's time to stop and let you know about today's sponsor of the show, Crazy Martin's in Piqua, Ohio, one of my favorite places in the entire world to go to. Crazy Martin's has provided their customers with quality products for over 20 years, from ashtrays to water pipes and everything in between. Stop in, check out their selection, and of course, check out their pinball machines. With over 20 pins to choose from, there is something for everyone. Crazy since 1996. I don't just say this about every place. I love going to Crazy Martin's. I've always loved going to Crazy Martin's ever since I was of age to go to Crazy Martin's. It's one of my favorite places in the entire world. Me and my wife go there almost every Sunday to play pinball machines. It is one of the funnest spots in Ohio you could possibly find. It is in Piqua, Ohio. Check out their website at www.crazymartins.com. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of The Rose Show. As always, I am your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today we've got another episode of the Unmasked series with a very special guest. This is somebody that I've been wanting to talk to since I started this show, but I wasn't really sure when the right time was going to be. But I feel like his story hasn't really been told on the level that it deserves to be told on. And I figured, hey, what better time than now? We're fresh off of Camp Zool 4. This is the best time in the world to talk about this kind of thing because, all the Zooligans are having that post-camp stress syndrome, whatever you want to call it. And man, I'm really excited about this one today. He is 1/3 of A.X.E and somebody I've known for a very long time. And I love this dude to death. It is Joe Black, my brother. How we doing today, dude?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Not bad, not bad. Just enjoying, warm weather right now. It's we're in the middle of the summer, and like I said, it's not as hot as it was at camp, but it is warm because this year's camp was ungodly hot. I don't even know. And here's the thing: everybody like day one was looking at you, and we could just tell like you were not fucking having it when it came to the heat this year, bro. It was crazy.
I was fucking destroyed before I even got there. Just the ride there in the car fucked me up. That was like the first time all year I've been out in the fucking sunlight, and yeah, I didn't handle it very well.
But hey, it was all good, man. We all none of us really handled it well. But anyway, so I kind of want to start off, like I said a couple seconds ago. I want to get the full Joe Black story because there's a lot of meat on that bone that hasn't been touched yet by people, and I feel like we've got an opportunity to do that here. So let's go ahead and start at the beginning. What was your kind of early upbringings and as a kid, teenager, whatever? How did you get involved in music and your love for music? How did all that evolve?
Well, basically, ICP and Twisted was like the main influences for sure. But I was also inspired, like on a local level too. There was a band called Mother A-Track and a band called Absolute Hatred. And I got to go see those guys live down here a lot, and it really like put the passion in my heart for performing live. And like ICP, like let me see that white people could rap and do it like on a big level and not be extremely fucking ridiculed. Because whenever I first started like getting into this shit, there like it was basically just Eminem and ICP, you know what I mean, and like some like rip-offs of them. There really wasn't like a whole lot of white rappers killing the game, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's something that doesn't. I feel like we've kind of lost exactly where we were at that time as far as like music goes. Because at one point in time, the era that you're talking about, it was not okay to be a white rapper. Like if you were in the rap game and you were white, immediately you were looked down at. And I think we've all kind of forgot that because now it's just kind of like, yeah, whatever. It's more weird to see a Hispanic rapper now than I guess, a white rapper. You know what I'm saying? The people have forgotten just how hard it was to break in. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was like really weird. There wasn't like a lot of serious like type of white rappers. They were always like goofy and shit.
Malibu's Most Wanted was how
Yeah.
everybody looked at it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, in Portsmouth, well, I guess I should ask that. You grew up in Portsmouth, correct?
Between Franklin Furnace and Portsmouth, yeah.
Okay. So was there a heavy underground scene there, or was it something that you kind of had to go and look for? Because again, people forget the underground music back then, late 90s, early 2000s, you had to go look for it. It was not in your face. There was no phones. There was really no internet at the time. You had to go look for it. Now, for me, being where I was, it was kind of everywhere. Being along I-75, literally right next to I-75, this was a hotbed for the area from here to Detroit and all the way down to Cincinnati. Did you guys have to go looking for it, or was there already an established scene out there?
There was no rap scene at all. It was all like punk rock shit. There wasn't even any metal bands that I know of. The bands that I was seeing when I was in like 13 or 14 and shit like that, the local bands, they were always like punk rock bands. And I fucking, punk rock's not for me. There's like a few specific bands that I fuck with, but yeah, punk rock's definitely not for me. And, I don't know. I enjoyed the energy of the shows and shit. I remember there was a band called the fucking Dry Humpers that came down here and played at Tracy Park.
The dry humpers.
Yeah, and the first fucking and there's like also a band that like traveled all the way from Canada to come down here and play at a fucking public park. But the Dry Humpers opened up, and their first song was called "Fuck Canada," and I didn't really like their music, but I loved the fucking attitude. You know what I mean? And I was always a really big fan of Johnny Rotten. So like my name's
Yeah.
kind of monitored after him and my attitude and shit. And yeah, there really wasn't no rap shit. I think that the first rap show that I remember seeing down here was us, was me and Nate Kreckler, Diabolic.
So how did you end up finding ICP? Because you just don't stumble on ICP back then.
I actually did. Fucking
Oh wow, okay.
it was a bit of a weird story. A lot of synchronicity involved before, during, and currently, and in my life with numbers and shit. And I think it's all because of fucking ICP. Used to drive me crazy back in the days. But well, I went to school. I was in seventh or eighth grade. I can't remember. I was like, what, 14 years old. It was 1997, and I went to school, and I had a homie named Joe. Joe Young. Shout outs to Joe Young. Hope you're doing well. You're probably not though, but I hope you are. Fucking yeah. I went to school, and this dude had this cool ass looking hoodie on, and had like this weird like green and purple face on it. And I was like, "Yo, what's that? That's fucking cool." Because even before I found ICP, I always loved like clowns. I just always loved clowns. I don't know. Always kind of fancied myself a fucking fat clown. Ever since I was a little kid, I always just kind of like saw myself as being like a weird fat clown of a fucking human. So ICP just kind of clicked for me because I always loved the carnival aesthetic and shit. But yeah, he had the hoodie on. And I was like, "Yo, what's that?" He was like, "Dude, it's this band called ICP, Insane Clown Posse." And I was like, "That's fucking cool." And he was like, "Yeah, here's the CD. It's called the Riddle Box. Actually, it was a fucking tape." And he was like, "Here, check it out." He's like, "Don't let your fucking parents hear it though. You'll get in trouble." I remember him like specifying that shit. And I took it home, and before I could even play it, like my ritual was like any teenager at that point in time. You go home and you fucking get out of school. You go home and you turn on MTV. And I did
Yeah.
that, and I just happened to catch the MTV News, and it had the ICP on it. And they mentioned that they're airing a documentary later on that evening. And so I made sure I watched it, and it was called Shockumentary, and it fucking changed my life forever. And then the very fucking next day, uh, 'cause it was like right toward the end. That might have been the last day of school. Actually, it was like toward the end of the school year. I know that, uh, or I might got expelled or something. I was doing a lot of dumb shit back in the days. But I remember our landlord called and said that her grandson was in town and he didn't have friends. He didn't know anybody, and he was my age, and she wanted us to meet. So I go over there, and this kid's wearing a fucking uh, Riddle Box jersey. So he starts like really, he's like way more into it. So he starts like really schooling me on like the whole lore and all that shit. And my whole thing back then was like, if a band didn't believe in God, I didn't fuck with them because I was like uber religious. And I remember he actually had the CD booklet for Riddlebox, and I remember reading it. And they thanked God like first and foremost, so that like opened the door for me to like become obsessed with him in my young Christian addled mind. And yeah, once I saw Shockumentary, man, it was fucking game over, and it just kept lining up. It was so weird. I had never heard of this band once in my life, and then all of a sudden I did. It was just a constant bombardment of this band. That weekend, I go up to my grandpa's, and they live in what's called a holler. And ICP had never been played in no holler before. I fucking can tell you that. And yeah, I get up there, and I had a rest in peace. She passed away not long ago. I had an older cousin named Crystal, and I always thought she was so cool because she was older and shit. So I idolized her, and 'cause I didn't really have a lot of friends and shit as a kid. So family was like pretty important to me back then. Everyone's fucking dead now. But back then, family was super important to me, and so she was like influential. And I remember going up to see to tell her that I had procured some cigarettes, and I remember going into her bedroom and her going, "Chicken fucking gets her throat. Is he there?" And I heard that already from I think it was the Riddle Box, and I was like, "Holy shit, you know about ICP?" And she was like, "Yeah, check this shit out. My parents fucking hate it." And then she let me hear fucking Ringmaster, and it was just game over. But like ever since the one time I heard about him, it was like it was constantly beat into me until like I was brainwashed thoroughly. So it was all meant to be. Now that I think back,
How did you get from being, just a normal fan to you're like, okay, I think I can do this? How did you transition from, hey, I really like this music to I actually want to be involved in this game?
honestly, I didn't really want to. Kind of still don't. It's people always told me all the way back. They're always like, "Joe, you got to start rapping. Joe, you got to be a rapper." I always wanted to be a preacher, a cop, or I wanted to have a metal band, like a real heavily themed metal band, and never really considered being a rapper. You know what I mean? And but people always fucking talk. I think it's because I was like witty, and I would just destroy motherfuckers with my wit. And I think people wanted to see that transition into some type of hip hop or something. I don't fucking know, but people always told me that I was going to be a rapper. Or I should rap. I never really considered it, put too much thought into it. But here we fucking are. But I think I can't remember how it started, how who asked who, but I know me and Diabolic started rapping together. We were called Maniacs, uh, like the Maniaxe. Other than clowns, I've always liked my obsessions have always been death, the end of the world, and sharp axes. So I always wanted to keep A.X.E as like an acronym or something, and I was able to pull that off with the help of Ghostbusters and a bunch of retarded knowledge about Sumerian shit. But yeah, essentially, I didn't really want to fucking rap. Still kind of don't want to, but everyone else seems to want me to. So here we fucking are. You got to do what you're supposed to do.
Okay, so you come up with this name. Take us from there to where you and Billy got together, and kind of give us the background of the structure of how you saw this group, becoming.
Uh, I could see then, back then, that Nate was a little more sociable than me, and he kind of wanted to like rap with a broad spectrum of people. I wanted to keep it a real certain way. Even back then, I knew that if I was going to be successful in this, I had to carve a niche in it. You know what I mean? And I wanted to keep it fucking dark and evil always. That was like what I wanted to do. Was kind of like come in the game ruthless, have a career, and end just as ruthless as I started. Because that's one thing that I've noticed that's plagued my idols and the shit that I'm into is like they never really people get fucking money and they lose their hunger, they lose their problems. You know what I mean? They lose the edge in their art. I still currently have all of my problems, mental disabilities and shit, and I don't have any fucking money. Very disgruntled in life, so yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm succeeding in that aspect. The shit that I write is just as brutal as it was, when I started. But I think that Nate was just on a broader spectrum, and I knew that Bill was witty and intelligent, and he was as anti-social as I was. So just kind of decided he was probably the perfect target to convince him to throw his life away and join in a rap group.
How did you meet Bill?
Um, I had always seen Bill in passing and shit. Cause there was like I was like the main head juggalo. I was the first one down here. I started the cult. I did all the recruiting. I built a fucking gang down here, straight up. And I always seen Bill, and he had like his little crew of juggalos. We always like said hi and shit, but we never really talked. You know what I mean? And I don't know. One day they just knocked on my fucking door when I lived at my parents' house. This is like way back in the days, and I opened the door and they're just like, "Hey man, we heard you sell weed, or you can get it." And I was like, "Yeah, I can get it." And then I got them some weed, and then that was it.
Sidebar, you're like the fifth guest I've had where at some point the story goes into, yeah, they wanted to buy weed from me, and then we started a rap group. Like, I think that's how Michigan started. I think that's how, I don't know, there's been a bunch. I don't know. If you're that interested, you can go back and look at some of my episodes if you're listening. You don't know, but that's so fucking hilarious. That's a common trend, basically.
It is a common trend.
Yeah, it's crazy. But okay, so when I met you guys, like I said, this was, oh God, 9, 10 years ago now at this point. When I met you guys, it was I was doing shows at Odd Bodies. It was my very first, well, the first time we were supposed to meet actually didn't happen because I ended up booking, my very first show was a ABK April Fool's Foolin' Tour. And it was my first time as a promoter, so I didn't know what was going on. But there had been two different acts, ACTS acts. There was two different acts that were added last minute, and I had to make a decision to pick one or the other because somebody overbooked or somebody got scammed or something happened. I don't know what exactly happened, but it was my job as the promoter to pick one of these groups and figure something out later. And I ended up calling Bill. It was you guys and somebody else. I ended up calling Bill and said, "Hey, I can't put you guys on this one because there was some kind of scam that happened or something like that. But I'll bring you guys back for another one." And coincidentally, the act I ended up going with was Knox, believe it or not. And that's when we talk about things like the world is connected, and the world, things that are beyond our control, and these things are going to happen whether we want them to or not. It's ironic that before you even knew who Knox was, aka Lee Carver, all of us were already tied into this weird hexagon in reality. And I find that people don't put enough power into stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a big believer in destiny. And there's not one part of me that doesn't think that just as much as you all were destined to meet each other, like I was supposed to meet you guys too. Does that make sense?
Yes, it goes back to the synchronicity shit. I always kind of like searched for a name for that because I noticed the way things would arrange themselves when you're on the path that God or whatever force that you believe in wants you to be on. And I think synchronicity is like the first step of that. And once you realize it, like the number 17, for example, once you realize shit like that, it's you can't unsee it. Like that's same with playing the Ouija board and shit like that, dude. Fucking around with the occult, like it's not the board. The board is just a vessel. It's the act of your brain like accepting divination, like wanting to do forbidden shit. That's like the threshold that you cross. Once you cross that, then you're kind of in the spirit world. And I think same with synchronicity. I think once you see it, there's no going back. You can accept it, or you can drive it. You can let it drive you crazy. That's kind of what almost happened to me in the fucking beginning.
Yeah. And that's something that I completely agree with you with. And obviously this isn't a an advertisement for religion or anything like that. You believe whatever you want to believe, and that's fine. But there's been way too much shit that's happened in my life to make me go, okay, there's not something, like I know certain things have happened. I'm like, this is out of my control. There's too many
Yeah,
coincidences. There's too many things that have happened in my life that I can't explain. Too many, near death experiences to me and people that I know personally in my personal life that I shouldn't be here or they shouldn't be here, or even something as simple as like I was saying right now, my first show as a promoter was Lee Carver's first show as Knox, and you guys were tied into it. All these things you're telling me, all these things are a coincidence. And not only that, and we'll get back to the actual interview here in a minute, but I don't get to talk about stuff like this very often, so I'm going to take the opportunity to do it. But not only that, like, if you really don't think there's anything out there, I want you to go to the most haunted location on planet Earth and spend a week there. And tell me, if you truly don't believe that in a spirit realm and there's nothing after this, you should have no problem going to Vlad the Impaler's castle for a week and spending the night there, because what are you worried about? I think about stuff like that and I go, would you do it? Because I don't think people would. You know what I'm saying? It's just weird. It's weird how people kind of deny it. Why do you think that is? Why do you think people deny stuff like that? We have so many examples of it being the case.
I think that skeptics are vehicles driven by fear, and either their egos or
Mm,
their subconscious, they just don't realize it. Because human beings, when they build up this like persona of themselves in their head, we make ourselves the main story of our lives, of course, as you probably should. But yeah, no one wants to think. No, people get fucking scared, and then the first reaction to fear is usually anger or like just like nonchalant, just rubbing it off your shoulders. But I think it's fear, man. I think most of the skeptics deep down are just really scared. I think most people are scared of ghosts because they're scared of the afterlife. Because if there's an afterlife, the Bible might be real, and then you got to fucking pay for your transgressions. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of atheists and a lot of skeptics don't want to have accountability in their lives, so they just don't believe.
in your personal opinion, because I've got mine, but I want to hear yours first. If let's say there is an afterlife and there is a superior being, do you think we're going to get punished for doing some of the stuff that we've done, as far as, obviously the imagery of A.X.E and the Juggalo Underground, the Zooligan Underground, life in general is very brutal. Do you think
Yeah,
that this is going to be looked at in a negative life when you meet your maker, or do you think it's something, you think humanity has gotten that wrong?
I think I'm gonna pay for the words that I say, for the influence that I put into people. No matter, you can like put whatever kind of spin, kind of positive spin you want on it, but if we're going by the Bible, uh, we're taking glory from God. You know what I mean? And
Um,
so yeah, I really don't think it's. from a religious standpoint, I don't think that you can cut it down to be positive. I don't think there's any way to slice it. But as like you take religion out, yeah, there's plenty of positive aspects. But if you're looking at it from a Christian's viewpoint, then no, there's no redeeming qualities to us. We're going to burn in hell forever for what we do and say. If there's no punishment for pieces of shit, that's kind of what death is. It's like the great equalizer. You know what I mean? It's going to reveal all the mysteries one way or another, and hopefully there's an aspect of death that punishes people who deserve it. Because if not, what the fuck is the point? You know what I mean? What's the point of life if people can just do what the fuck they want, get away with it, die, and then that be it? I choose to believe uh, that there's more to the afterlife, and personally, I know for a fact that there is because I put in the time and uh, in the haunted places and doing research into the occult and the paranormal. And it's no one that hasn't had the experience can't understand. It's the same way like someone that's never broke their leg or been crippled or suffered that pain. They won't understand the problems of someone who has. You know what I mean? They can like relate to it or whatever and like wrap their head around it, but until you actually experience it, you don't understand it. And most skeptics don't. You know what I mean? They don't fucking try to find ghosts or whatever. They just choose to not believe it without putting in the time to see if it's really real for them or not. But I put in the time and I've had responses and I've had so much crazy shit happen to me throughout my life. Even before I was into it, I used to be absolutely fucking terrified of everything that I'm into now. I think becoming who I am now was like my way of coping with. I had a lot of problems with spirits or demons or whatever when I was a kid, and I think who I am now was like my way of like fighting back against it, not being scared of it no more. Was like kind of becoming it. You know what I mean?
From my perspective and the way that I look at it, and I've told this to somebody because I go to church every Sunday that I can. You can judge me if you want, that's fine. But I go to a church that is very accepting of who I am and probably the only church on planet Earth I can walk into because I'm not changing who I am for a church. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I'm going in there wearing the same thing I would wear at Walmart, and they have no problem with that. But I've explained this to somebody who used to go to this church, and I'm pretty sure they don't go there anymore because I scared them because they're that kind of a person. But I think that when it comes to all this dark world that we dwell in, whether it be, like I said, Zooligan shit, underground, whatever, so much beauty has come from entering the darkest parts of who we are. So much good vibes, so much relationships, so many friendships that will last forever, so many moments that are so good come out of this dark space. How can that not be the yin to the yang? You know what I'm saying? Like when it comes to the darkness, everybody looks at the veil and sees, okay, that's the content. No, no, no. That's what's inside of everyone. It's just a matter of how deep inside is, when you're Ted Bundy and you're actually doing it, okay, I get it. When you're an actual serial killer, okay, I get it. But all those tendencies from those same exact people live in each and every single one of us. So if we're created in the image of God, that tells me God, who has killed millions of people on planet Earth, if you're taking the Bible from a literal standpoint, whether it be Sodom and Gomorrah, whether it be Noah's Ark, no matter what it is, that means God has that same darkness inside of him. How could any God look at somebody like us and judge us for doing some stuff that he did as well? Now, that's my personal opinion. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. But I think all of us have that inner darkness from birth. And as long as we don't act on it, this is our way of getting it out. This is our way of, and it has brought getting out this darkness, whether it be through imagery, verbalization through music, whatever it is, has brought this beautiful piece of group of people together. And whether it be, again, metal scene, you can say the exact same thing. It has brought all these beautiful moments together. And how can you look at that and think somebody's going to be punished for it? You know what I'm saying? That's my opinion on it.
I don't think you can from a human standpoint, but from a Christian standpoint, I think it's looked at uh, like from a parent's perspective. I kind of always just looked at the whole Lucifer and Jehovah saga as the angry parent and the rebellious teenager. You know what I mean? I think we as human beings, we love to throw ourselves into the mix and romanticize everything, overcomplicate situations. And I think a lot of that's what's happened with religion in the Bible. I think overall is just a father and a son having a dispute as the son grows. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I think everything else is kind of just extra. And I think the Bible has been manipulated over the years, obviously. And I think
absolutely.
there's still power and there's still truth in it. But to answer your question, I think religion looks at it like, you know, your kid grows up and does or you grew up and did bad shit. Then you have a kid, and then uh, the kid does the same shit that you did. Should you be like, oh, well, that's my kid, or should you punish that kid? You know what I mean? And then try to set him down a better path. I think the religion's more like the angry parent, and there's not a lot of circumstance, not a lot of room for circumstance in religion, and that's my problem with it because life is completely fucking full of circumstance, and religion's just too black and white to actually make sense and exist today. You know what I mean? But I
Yeah,
think that's because mankind has I think some smart motherfuckers back in the days realized how powerful death is. It's the ultimate mystery, and they use that to their advantage. They're like, look, no one knows that the end of that story because no one's ever came back and told it. So they use it as a weapon. They're like, you live your life this way, you go here. You live your life that way, and you go there. Which was probably born out of two things: necessity and just people just being shitty and um, wanting power and shit. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, let's get off this train. We kind of sidebarred here, and I got a couple more things I want to talk about, but I definitely appreciate your opinion on it because it's something that, like I said, I don't get to talk about too much, especially on this show. But what I want to ask you at this point is, did you think it was ever going to get to where it being the Zooligan, horde and where everything is at where it stands right now? Did you ever think it was going to get to a point where, you guys were going to sign with people that you looked up to your whole life and you were going to build this community, or was it always something that you just kind of wanted? Well, I know you said you didn't want to do music to begin with, but did you ever think it would get anywhere near where it has gotten now?
Yeah, wholeheartedly. I honestly, I figured we'd be way bigger by now. Uh, I just always had that feeling, you know. There's always that gamble that you're just fucking insane, you know what I mean? But I just always had a
Right.
fucking feeling. I always kind of believed in my personality, and who I am. Like, I always believed if I ever got to the masses that I would be very popular. I haven't got to the masses yet. I'm still, clawing my way up Exposure Mountain, but yeah, I always knew that. I always believed in Bill. I always knew that he was like he had the. I don't have the work ethic in me. Bill does. You know what I mean? I have ideas and shit like that, but Bill's the one that makes everything happen. I'm antisocial. I'm a subhuman. My parents never made me do anything like talk to other humans or cut the fucking grass. So now uh, I have trouble getting shit done. So I basically just live in my head still like I did when I was 10. So without Bill, yeah, none of this shit would happen. It was very going back to the fate thing. Whatever told me to pull him into this shit, like it was 100% correct.
Yeah. Is there anything that you found extra challenging when it comes to trying to do what you guys do? Because like you said, I know you say you're antisocial or whatever, but I've never gotten that from you. Maybe it's just because the whole fate thing, like you said, it's just, for some reason, I think me and you have always gelled well as far as conversationally and shit like that. But has there been anything like some kind of roadblock when it comes to doing this stuff that you didn't think that was going to be as difficult for you to do, whether it be, and I don't think interacting with people would be an issue for you because I think when you're in that environment, I think you excel. But is there anything as far as like the business goes, or what challenges did you, or are there any challenges that you saw in front of you that's been difficult to learn?
Just my whole life, I was born blind in my right eye, and I'm right-handed. So that just off the rip, my shit was going to be complicated. Therefore, I'm a complicated person because my life has never been easy. There's always been some fucking mountain, some type of adversity, whether it's mental health or fucking physical elements. There's always been nothing's ever been fucking easy for me, ever. And yeah, so like the creating part's pretty easy for me, like writing and coming up with concepts and shit like that. That's basically the only thing I enjoy out of all this shit. Other than I love performing live. But that anxiety, man, leading up to that shit, oh, it's fucking bad for me. And as I get older, it's starting to just like not go away. It's usually is like I'm nervous before a show, or there's that weird anxiety cloud inside of me, and then I perform and I feel great. But here lately, it's just like it's just not going away. I don't know what the fuck. I think it's just age, mortality. But yeah, basically everything except for writing is hard for me.
Yeah. And I think some of that is just, I think when you lose that anxiety, you start to lose. Oh God, this is going to sound terrible, and I don't think the guys would take it this way. But I'll preface it with this: I don't mean any disrespect by what I'm about to say. But when I was with Menace, I think that they were just towards the end. It was just like they're when it's time to do a show, they were just going through the motions. Because you got to remember, Menace to Sobriety has been in the underground since Cave in Rock. They were main staging the Gathering of the Juggalos at Cave in Rock. You know,
Yeah, I
they've been
saw.
doing it. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So
I
they've
was
been
blown
doing
away.
it. They've been doing it for a long time. Now I'm coming in. At that point, they're like, oh God, another show. So they didn't have those butterflies anymore. And it was a real challenge because I did. And I'd be all excited and I'd look around and, want to get up there. And all of them were like, ugh. I think when you lose some of that anxiety, that's when you start to lose some of your passion for it. And I think that was some of the roadblocks that, I ran into with them. But I never get that vibe from you guys. Whenever I'm backstage, it's always like you can tell. It's like, yeah, let's do it. And that was something that was always challenging for me being a part of that band. But funny story about Menace to Sobriety and you in particular. So I think it was my very first tour, the Spooktacular Horror Show tour with Twisted. And I think the stop was in Louisville and you guys were there. I think at this point we were getting our asses kicked like for almost a month now. And y'all brought some of the most dank fucking weed I've ever smoked in my life, right? And and again, we had broke down like every day for a month with this fucking RV. We had broke down, and y'all were just sitting in. I remember Doc was in the corner lecturing me about something. I don't remember what it was. I think it was because I wasn't doing as well, like as far as like talking to the crowd or whatever, because it's way easier to talk to a crowd you don't know. But when you're talking to the crowd at home, it's kind of like, hey, how's the cornfields here still growing? Like it's kind of difficult to do when you're in that position. And he was lecturing me about something, and I was so fucking high from what y'all gave me. I don't know what. God damn it, it was crazy. But I was so high as he's lecturing me. At one point, I just look up at him, and in my brain, what I want to say is, man, I can't have this conversation right now. I just smoked with the guys in A.X.E. I can't do this. That's what my brain wanted to say. But the only thing that came out was, man, A.X.E.'s got some good weed. And Doc looks at me like he's about ready to punch me in the fucking mouth. And later I explained what happened. But man, it's I just have so many good memories, like little shit like that, doing shows with y'all. And it's been such a pleasure knowing you guys and working closely with you guys the last couple of years. And like I said, we there's been plenty of summers playing Friday the 13th when that game was still active. Still playing Friday the 13th with y'all. Matter of fact, 2 days ago in my memories, I just saw something where I was taunting you online, and it said, "I escaped from Joe Black 3 times in a row. That motherfucker can't catch me," or whatever. And it's it's been such a pleasure knowing you guys and working with y'all. And like I said, I don't know how many more of these I got in me, but the small amount of time that I have known y'all, it's been an honor and a pleasure. And I know you're super passionate about what you do, and I want you to kind of take a moment right now. And the last time we talked, you were coming out and just talking your love about the scene that you guys have created, the Zooligans. Is there anything that you want to say right now while I have you here? If you're talking to the Zooligan army right now, what is it that you want to say to them? What is it you want them to know about how you feel about what they mean to you and what they represent to you?
They're the ultimate paycheck. There's not a lot of money, and we're in a niche market. You know what I mean? People think that since we're on a record label or whatever, and a lot of people are wearing our merch and shit, that like we're making multitudes of money. We're in a very fucking niche, whatever the fuck market. There's not a lot of money coming into three fat white guys with masks talking about murder. Yeah, we're a niche audience, and fucking, there's not millions of dollars coming in. You know what I mean? And most of what we make goes back into it. We take a pretty little piece off that plate, the plate that keeps everything moving. I just want the Zooligans to know that fucking, they're the ultimate paycheck, dude. This shit, I fucking, it's hard to keep going sometimes for me, for sure. But like anytime I'm feeling those feelings, man, I just go read some comments on a YouTube video or something, and all that shit starts to fade away. But they truly are, like, all jokes aside, the ultimate payoff, and like they mean more than any kind of money or anything like that. 100%. Like, I understand these people's pains, and they mine. You know what I mean? I think that's what makes us so tight knit. We're all kind of fucked up.
Yeah. And I think for you guys, especially, a lot of people say, especially in the underground these days, a lot of people say, oh man, we love y'all. Look, I want anybody listening right now to understand one thing. I've been around you guys when the Zooligans ain't around. They matter to you guys. You know, like a lot of people say, oh man, we love y'all, peace. No, y'all fucking mean it. I think that's the biggest difference. You know what I'm saying?
I do mean it. It's hard for me to say it. You know, I come from that ilk, that cloth. It's like hard to talk about emotions and shit. I think that's honestly why I do this. Is that's my way of like communicating my problems and shit like that. Uh, yeah, music really is a medicine. It's a therapy, 100%. At this point in my life too, like listening to music, it's I only really do it when I need to. It's legitimate medicine at this point for me in life. Strange how that happens as you age. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Well, over your time since doing this, is there any specific moments that stick out to you more than the rest that mean more to you throughout the entire career, whether it be at the beginning to where we are right now? Is there any specific moments where you're like, oh man, this is one of my favorite memories?
There's a bunch. I try to keep all that shit down. I try not to think about any of the good stuff too much. I just I want to keep that for when it's all done. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then like I can look at it, reflect on shit. Then when I'm done with it, but I'm not done with it yet. So I try to not think about the good shit too much. To be honest, I try to dwell on the bad because it helps me write. And but my favorite memory so far, for sure, has been the Mike. There's been a lot. I got a lot of favorite memories, but the King Don Dada for sure is the Mike Clark. Working with Mike Clark, getting to go up there to the studio, feel like a legitimate, like actual traveling paid rapper. You know what I mean? And yeah, just that whole thing, man. And getting signed too. I don't know if we talk. I'm sure we talked about it, but like when we got signed, we signed the contract and ate the dinner and shit. It was at Astro, and like Sid Haig was with us, just eating dinner with us at our signing and shit. I'll never forget that. There's a lot of really good things, man, but I try not to think about them right now. I try to stay in the negative, stay in the mire, because it helps me write. But once I'm done with it all, yeah, I want to really reflect and really like let the good in. You know what I mean? The good
Yeah, that's
feelings.
fair.
But right
Yeah.
now, it's all bad feelings.
Fair enough. Well, there's one story I want you to tell because it's one of my favorite Joe Black stories, and I don't know if it's been told publicly, but I want it on this show particular. So I think it was Camp Zool 2. It's day one, I think, maybe, and you're nowhere to be found. Like we can't get a hold of you. We don't know what's going on, and it is go time. You do know what I'm alluding to here.
Yeah, that fucking cop. The cops got me.
Okay. Okay. So, from our perspective, for anyone listening, and then I'll let you take over, we cannot find Joe. We're trying to call. We're calling Alyssa. We're calling you. We cannot find you anywhere. And then all of a sudden, you pull up. Tell us what happened at that point.
Well, first off, I want to say that we left early that day, and there was some kind of fucking car wreck or something, and it fucked the traffic up, and that's why I was late to begin with. So once we finally got out of the traffic, and I want to fucking stress this, I woke up fucking early to not be late. I woke up like
he's,
3 hours of
he's
sleep.
stressing this. He's stressing this because this is a rarity. They leave
Yeah,
early for
I'm never
shit.
late. But the fucking so like we get out of the traffic, we finally get into like the area of Terror Town, and Alyssa's gunning it because I'm already late at this point, and I'm already mad because life has fucked me in the ass without me asking it to. And so yeah, we finally get there. I'm like, oh, I'm like 5 minutes late. That's not that bad. Or I was like 5 minutes away from being 5 minutes late. So I technically wasn't even late yet. We were about to pull in and we got hit with the whoop whoops. And then I'm like putting on my fucking makeup and shit as the cops walking up. So I'm like, I didn't shave my head that day, so I'm like leprosy patches and shit, putting the fucking makeup on. I got black leather gloves and like one big black eye and like black around my mouth. And the cop walks up, he's just like, "What the fuck?" I think it's actually what he said. He just said, "What the fuck?" And I was like, "Dude, I'm in a band. We're a little band. We're trying to be a big band. We're doing a festival, and I'm fucking late to a first ever Q&A." And he was like, "Oh my golly, follow me!" And it's like fucking, he like hopped in his fucking car and like led us to the shit all fast with his lights on and shit. Super fucking cool ass cop. But despite his efforts, I was still fucking late. But yeah, it won't be the last time I'm late to something. And I'm gonna try my best to legit be late at my fucking funeral. I'm gonna try to pull something as a ghost outside of my corpse to make my funeral fuck up, so then Bill can proceed to talk shit and say some shit like, "Oh, I knew he was gonna be fucking late to his own fucking funeral." And yes, I plan on
Shit, yeah.
dying first.
Yeah, time schedules and A.X.E are not things that go hand in hand. I can promise anyone that will happen. But okay, well, as we kind of close here, like I said a little bit ago, man, it's been a pleasure and an honor knowing you. I love you guys a lot, no matter where the
I love
roads
you too,
take us.
dude.
I'm always grateful for what you guys have done, not only for the scene, but the opportunities you've given me post COVID. And you guys didn't have to ask me to be involved in anything you guys did, and it's some of my fondest memories in doing this shit is working for you guys the last couple of years, and just having the responsibility and the ability to execute as flawlessly as I can for you guys is what I enjoy doing. So, and I don't do this shit, and I hope nobody takes this the wrong way, but I don't do this shit for clout. I do it because I enjoy it, and it's been fun. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And the last couple of minutes I want to give to you. If there's anything you want to say at all, floor is yours, brother.
Well, I want to say get your cats spayed and neutered, or you will be haunted by the ghost of Pat Sajak. I can't remember the other fucking guy's name, but Pat Sajak's still alive, but he will be dying soon, and he will be coming to visit you if you have a slutty, unspayed cat.
All right,
Pretty
that's
much
fair
all I got
enough,
to
Joe.
say.
I appreciate your time, brother.
Hey, anytime, man. It's always been a pleasure working with you, dude. You've always been my one of my fucking favorites, maybe my favorite, and I hope that don't change. I hope to see you at every event that we do in the future.
Hey, myself as well, bro. Take care, bro.
Hey, you too, man. Anytime.